Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. So today I am going to read a few chapters of Cara the Class Clown by Lydia di Giulio, Bridget di Giulio. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 19, Trapped. Upon entering his bedroom, Albert placed the jar on his bedside table. Lying on his bed, he watched Cara scuttling around in circles in the jar, desperately trying to find a way out. "Let me out of it, please let me out!" cried Cara, but it was no use. Nobody could hear her cries for help. Realising that she was trapped with no way of escape, Cara crouched down in the middle of the jar and decided to look around. Suddenly, Albert jumped off his bed and, grabbing hold of the jar, shaking it vigorously. Wake up, little cockroach," he urged. Consequently, Cara began to roll around in the jar as though she was on a roller coaster. Albert then tipped the jar upside down, causing her to fall onto her back. Cara began to panic as she waved her hands and legs around frantically in the air in a desperate attempt to turn herself upright again. But Cara just couldn't seem to roll over back onto her tummy, no matter how hard she tried. Albert began to giggle as he watched Cara make several unsuccessful attempts, but finally she gave the jar a gently shake and helped her land back onto her feet. Cara breathed a sigh of relief, but she was now most annoyed with Albert. "Please don't do that again. I don't like being stuck upside down," she said, glaring at him. But Albert just looked at her and smiled. "You're such a fun pet," he thought to himself, grinning. "I'm never going to let you go." "Albert, can you come here for a moment, please?" called out Mrs. Benton from the lounge room. "Coming, Mother." "Please don't do that again. I don't like being stuck upside down," she said, glaring at him. But Albert just looked at her and smiled. "You're such a fun pet," he thought to himself, grinning. "I'm never going to let you go." "Albert, can you come here for a moment, please?" called out Mrs. Benton from the lounge room. "Coming, Mother," Albert replied as he walked over to her. "You've forgotten to get the milk," she replied. "Can you please go to the store now, Albert? We don't have a drop left, and I can't even make myself a cup of tea." "Oh, yes, I forgot. Sorry, Mother. I'll go now, and I'll take Connor with me," replied Albert. "Connor? Connor? My name is Cara, not Connor, and I'm a girl," yelled Cara from the jar, flapping her wings furiously as she glared at Albert. "As if it's not bad enough that I am trapped in this jar with no food and water, I also have to put up with being called Connor, a boy's name," said Cara to herself. Feeling rather insulted, she thought crossly. "Can't he see how pretty I am?" Once outside, Albert headed back to the place where he had last left his bicycle, awkwardly climbing on with the jar still in his hand. He rode off to the store. Cara's most annoyed with Albert as she bounced around in the jar, firstly in one direction and then in the other, for the ride to the store was very rough and bumpy. Cara Cara glared at Albert, but he only smiled back at her and said, "I am so glad that I found you today. Connor, you're the best pet ever. I'm never going to let anything happen to you. I promise." Chapter 20. The Big Escape. "Good morning, Mr. Wattle," said Albert cheerfully to the shopkeeper upon entering the store. "May I have a carton of milk, please?" "Hello, Albert." "Certainly," replied Mr. Wattle as he served Albert behind the counter. What have you got there, Albert? Is that a cockroach?" asked Mr. Wattle curiously, while staring intently at the glass jar that Albert was holding. It sure is. He's my new pet," replied Albert, beaming. "Oh, I see. Does he have a name?" asked Mr. Wattle, grinning. "He certainly does," replied Albert. "His name is Connor." "Well, you'd better give Connor some food and water so he won't be your pet for much longer," said Mr. Wattle, chuckling. "I will. Thank you, Mr. Wattle, and goodbye," said Albert as he was leaving. Whilst on his way home, Albert soon realised that juggling a jar in one hand and a milk carton in the other, whilst trying to hold onto the handlebars of his bicycle at the same time, required great skill and concentration. As a result, Albert was pedalling along at a very slow rate on the footpath. All of a sudden, a loud noise gave Albert a terrible fright. As he was riding past, "Woof, woof, woof, woof," barked an enormous dog as it came bounding towards him. Startled, Albert immediately lost control of his bicycle and fell off. Fortunately, he landed on the nature strip and onto the soft green grass. The milk carton crashed to the ground, spilling onto the grass, and the glass jar broke as it rolled off the curb and onto the road. As Albert slowly lifted up his head, he found himself staring eye to eye with the dog who was suddenly pounced on him. The dog licked Albert's face, desperately wanting to play with him. Meanwhile, rolling around in the jar had made Cara feel quite dizzy, but she knew that she had to get away quickly. Although Cara had trouble keeping her balance, she still managed to zigzag her way down the road as fast as her tiny legs could carry her, whilst Albert was picking himself up off the ground. He spotted Cara from a distance and gave chase. Running along the nature strip to avoid the cars, the dog then chased Albert, barking excitedly as if in a game. But just as Albert had reached out to grab Cara, the dog playfully pounced on him, knocking Albert to the ground. Cara quickly crawled into the nearest train and out of sight. She scuttled high up along the walls of the train, out of reaching of the splashing water below. It wasn't long before she stumbled across a very long and narrow pipe. Curious as to where the pipe would lead, she climbed inside it and made her way to the top, squeezing herself through a large circular hole with a number of smaller holes embedded in it. Cara found herself at the bottom of a laundry sink. For a moment, Cara thought that she had found her way home again, and her heart pounced with excitement. She quickly fell down to the ground. What a perfect landing, thought Cara. Mrs. Cornelia would be so proud of me. After looking around, Cara suddenly became very disappointed when she realised that she wasn't actually at home. Her heart sank and she was filled with sadness. Cara began to feel really homesick and wondered how she could ever find her way home again. But despite her disappointment, Cara knew that she needed to look for a safe place to rest. Looking around, she spotted the perfect place. Crawling under the door of a tall wooden cupboard, she soon dozed off, dreaming that she was back at home again with her parents. Safely tucked away in her cosy bed underneath the washing machine,